So we call to order as a duly advertised and required by law, the special meeting of the City of New Smyrna Beach Commission for Thursday, June 13th, 2024 will come to order. Please join me in silencing your cell phones. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hartman.
Present.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner McGurk.
Here.
Vice Mayor Perrine. Here. Mayor Cleveland.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Just as a reminder, the public, both the issues before us tonight will have public hearings where you'll be afforded time for public participation. This public participation I'm getting ready to announce is for items that are not on the agenda. So if there's any member of the citizenry who wishes to speak on a topic not on the agenda, now's your time to come forward and approach the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. The green light will come on as you approach. Name and address, please, for the record. The yellow light will come on at a minute to go, and then you'll be finished at the red light. Any member of the public wish to address the commission at this time? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. We're on to the special meeting. Madam City Attorney will read Ordinance 3524 for the first time by title only.
Ordinance number 3524, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach considering the extension of the temporary moratorium adopted by ordinance number 1724 on the issuance of certain building permits for a section of Venetian Bay, generally located north of State Road 44, east of Airport Road, and south of Medina Way, that would impact the malfunctioning stormwater system for a period ending no later than January 28, 2025. Unless automatically terminated or extended by a subsequent ordinance, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. If you'll note a little change on the dais tonight, Mr. Corbin, our Development Services Director and former city manager in another city, is filling in. Mr. Rashadat is still on medical leave and assures me he's healing up fine. We'll see him tomorrow. And then our assistant city manager had a family emergency. So we're blessed to have talent very deep here. So Shane happens to be the subject matter expert on both the issues coming before us. So with that said, your report, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. You're too kind. As City Attorney described, this is a moratorium extension of one that was passed initially back in January or earlier this year. I'm just going to give you a brief history on that, how we got there, and where we're at, and ask that we extend the moratorium. So the first picture you see here is from one of the neighborhoods in Venetian Bay. Again, here are a couple more pictures. Prior to this flooding event in November of last year, there were several heavy rain events where this was occurring. The residents went to St. John's Water Management District, and they did an investigation which led to them actually issuing a letter to the HOA of Venetian Bay, because they are the ones responsible for maintaining the stormwater systems out there. So they sent them a letter asking for several things to be completed to bring them back into compliance, because they were no longer in compliance. What resulted from that was both the Venetian Bay HOA as well as the Portofino Estates HOA engaging separate engineering firms. The Venetian Bay engineering firm produced a very robust report that is attached to your agenda, as well as a series of things that they have done to date to try to bring the system back into compliance, as far as cleaning out pipes, the ditches, removing brush. I actually invited them to come and speak tonight if they wanted to review that, and they declined, only because there is talk of pending litigation going on over this, and they did not want to speak on it in a public meeting. But they said, you already kind of know what we've done, feel free to repeat that. And what they have said to me is they've spent about $100,000 on maintenance to this point to try to get it back into compliance, as well as having their engineer ongoing, shooting the elevations of the ponds, the ditches, inventorying all of that information, and trying to meet the criteria of the Water Management District, which is to certify the system and make sure that it's operating as designed or make modifications to it to bring it into compliance. So all these reports are attached to your agenda item. Also, Portofino Gardens, as I mentioned, they had an engineering firm go out and shoot elevations of the ditch. I know we hear a lot of talk about the ditch. Based on what we saw in that survey, as well as the modeling data, which I'll get into in a minute, we don't believe the ditch is an issue. For the length of the area that was surveyed, there's approximately a 9-foot drop in elevation. It does meander where it drops and it comes back up, and so it's not a perfect slope, but from point to point, it's approximately about 9 feet. So the water does move. It has some bottleneck areas, but it does move through the ditch. And all of the engineers are in agreement that the ditch has plenty of capacity. Shell Point is not impacting it. And so we think that's not an issue at this time. So this image you can see has an inventory of all the pipes in the stormwater system. Our engineers have taken all of this data along with all of the River Management District permitting data, the engineering data from both engineers, both Portofino Estates and the HOA, and we purchased this Stormwise Expert software modeling. So we're using math, logic, and science to try to isolate what this issue is and get down to, what is the fix. So we purchased the software, we inputted all the data, and we started running models. One of the things that we found through doing that process, I don't know how well you can see it on here where the red arrows are pointing to, those 2 ponds on the east side are supposed to have they're called earthen weirs, so that if the stormwater gets to a certain point, there's an emergency spillway, so they spill out into the wetlands to the east. At first we were told nobody could find them. They don't know if they were ever installed to begin with or they weren't maintained. And then at a later conversation we had with the HOA engineer, he said, well, actually he thinks he found one, and the problem may be that the wetlands are actually at an elevation above what the top of that berm is. So it might be flowing back into the system instead of doing the opposite effect than what is intended for the emergency spillway. We're not exactly sure what happened, but the engineer we were all collaborating really well. We don't know if it's because of the possible litigation, but our last attempts to try to communicate with him to see if he's gotten any further along, he hasn't responded. But we're still here as a resource, and we're doing everything we can. Lastly, we ordered piezometers, 12 piezometers, to go in as part of the model. You actually input the height of the water table, the elevations. We want to make sure that the water table elevations have not changed, and if they had, what does that do to the system and the model? So we put those in back in April, and we're collecting data, and we need to collect the data longer so that we can put that data into the model and have accurate results. That's one of the reasons we're asking for the extension. Wanted to include this slide so you could see exactly what the model produces. So this is an image put together by one of our engineers, and what we're doing is we're changing, making adjustments to different variables within the model to see what result comes out. And that's how we're trying to isolate and pinpoint what the issue is. So for example, we'll run the model with the weirs and without the weirs and then see where they come up. Or we'll lower a pipe along the ditch and see if that makes a difference. And so we're collecting all this data, but again, what we need is a little bit more time to collect more data from the piezometers so we can input that data, and hopefully we're getting close to isolating what the issue is and making a recommendation. And so with that, I would ask that you approve the ordinance and extend the moratorium.
Thank you, Director Corbin, for your report. Other members from the dais with questions for him?
Yeah,
Commissioner Martin.
it's not a question, because I know you really need data to make good engineering decisions. But I think it's important that the members of the public hearing the word moratorium in Venetian Bay understand that it functionally only affects that northern corner at I-95 and 44, and really doesn't impact residential development that's been improved. So we just want to clarify what a Venetian Bay moratorium is. Thank you.
Any other questions for him? And we'll have a good discussion here in a minute. We can go further on that. Any questions for his report? Let us hear from the public. Is there any citizen who wishes to speak on this issue? This is a monologue, not a dialogue. We're not going to be answering questions, but the city manager's representative and the city clerk will take your name and address and get back to you where appropriate. So as you approach the podium, your name and address for the record. The green light will come on. You'll have 3 minutes, the yellow light at a minute, and you need to be done at the red light. And we're anxious to hear what you have to say. Thank you so very much. Name and record and address for the record, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much. My name is Frank Prevost. I'm at 2916 North Arciano Court in Venetian Bay. And just a couple of comments, and I'll try to combine them because they're all, I think, all related. I appreciate the engineering department for the studies that they've been doing so far, and the planning and zoning committee for their recommendation for approval, and I would expect that the commission is going to approve the extension of the moratorium. One thing that I find a little bit troublesome is it just seems to me that we're not taking a completely open-minded approach on the solution. It seems like we are negating the possibility that there's a problem with the ditch, okay? All of us that live there think that there is. We've had some engineering studies that point to that as well. And, you know, we keep running software modeling, which I think is terrific. But I would invite you over the next few months to come out to Venetian Bay when we start to get some heavy rains and actually see what's going on actually and make a determination. And ultimately, I hope that the engineering department will have an open-minded approach in terms of analyzing the situation and then coming up with recommendations and then having everybody from the city of New Smyrna Beach, all the officials from New Smyrna Beach, hold the people that are accountable responsible. Secondly, I'll just make a comment regarding Deering, the Deering Innovation Center. You have an opportunity
That'll be a topic of a separate hearing.
Okay, so, all right, I'll be back.
You can come back and talk about that if you want.
Okay, I was trying to save a little bit of time, but I'll be back.
Please.
Thank you.
Look
Thank
forward to
you
hearing
all.
from you. You bet. Thank you for your comments, sir. Anyone else?
I'm Janet Hall, and I live at 106 Portofino Boulevard. I'm fully in support of the city's recommendation to extend the moratorium. Today, you know, we've had a lengthy dry period, so I think that the analysis and root cause investigation needs to be continued into a hurricane and wet season so that we can properly assess what's going on at Venetian Bay. before any consideration is given to the wisdom of further development in the vicinity. I do want to note that the area covered by this moratorium is very small. It doesn't address the long-term impacts of nearby current developments such as Shell Point, the next phase of the Palms, and Deering Innovation Center in the South Village, all of which ultimately drain into the Samsula Ditch or small areas of retained wetland, which seem to be the developer's drainage answer to every construction project. Nobody seems to think beyond how that water in that ditch actually gets out to the ocean and away from our living areas. Notwithstanding all the reassuring engineer reports, I venture that the city cannot truly know the future environmental impacts of this great experiment in urban development and destruction of wetlands and forests. There's a really important lesson to be learned from Venetian Bay. As is clear from Portofino Gardens, in the end, it's going to be the residents, individually or as part of the HOA, and the city who are left with the outcome of the poor planning decisions and diligence. Without all the hard efforts of several residents in Portofino Gardens, we wouldn't be where we are today with regard to the moratorium. Even so, the solution and who's going to bear the cost of it is very uncertain. Important as it is that the flooding and drainage is being looked into, there's a much bigger concern about these planned developments and their impact on the already malfunctioning, overburdened, and fragile wetlands. As our representatives for New Smyrna Beach, we expect and rely on you to be good stewards in monitoring the developments that are planned here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Hello, Joe.
Good evening. Joe Dluback, 3587 Casalta Circle, Venetian Bay. I'd like to remind that this is not the first time this issue was on the agenda, and there were many public speaking during the public session, and you heard their concern, and you recognize that. I just wanted to recommend a couple of things. One is, this is limited to a particular section of Venetian Bay, the southern section on the east side of Airport Road. We have issues throughout Venetian Bay, and those were raised earlier, and I'd just like to remind you of that again. One issue we have a concern about was within our own town center, we had water that was coming up literally to the doorstep of Tuscany Square, the condo building that was there. That was when Cordova was not in existence, whether it was an open field and draining as it should. We now have Cordova there, and God only imagine what's going to happen with the retention pond now that it's also to carry that. Lastly, we have impact beyond, and Janet had mentioned impact of other communities that are being developed, and their water is coming into ours. And I'm specifically thinking of Shell Point. So please consider a much larger expansion of any study that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Good evening, Scott.
Afternoon, Mr. Mayor and commissioners. How dare you bring logic and science into such an emotional issue? I'm so proud that we're actually doing some studies to try to figure out what this is going to look like. I'm a property owner both of first of all, Scott Steger, 466 Champagne Circle. I'm a property owner both in the commercial locations of Venetian Bay, but also one of the townhouses right in front of Portofino. My parents live there who are in their 80s, so I have a very vested interest in what's happening here. I'm glad that we're taking action. It does matter. I will tell you that I didn't have any damage to my commercial property in the most recent water event, we're going to call it that, until people who had trucks tall enough to go through the water decided to drive up and down the road, and then I had waves crashing over the front doors in the commercial areas. But it only happened because of the water. We got a lot of water. You can't push water into a river when the river is as high as the water in the neighborhood. I mean, we all have to understand that. What you guys are doing in terms of a moratorium, I think it's the right thing to do this study. I just caution you putting my real estate hat on. People have rights to do what they want to do with their property. Make absolutely certain that this is done for very specific ways with very specific outcome measures, so you can say, when we hit this, when we've established this, we're going to release this moratorium and we'll allow building. Once we've fixed the problems. I would also say that some of the amenities in Venetian Bay are kind of going away. The pool that's out there probably will end at the end of this year, and I know that the owner of the golf course has looked at trying to put some of those amenities in place. Please use caution in this moratorium as well, that you allow for some of that construction that is going to improve the lifestyle and some of the amenities for those people who do own properties in Venetian Bay as well. And if there's anything I can do to assist, we do a lot of sales and stuff in Venetian Bay. I'm happy to serve at your hand. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation?
Yes, Bob and Bonnie Gattinella, 2815 South Asciano Court. I'm not an engineer, but I appreciate the engineering studies and things that go along. A couple of things I have noticed. It appears that the homes here are 5 feet from the property lines in each way, so you have a total of 10 feet, which is not much. Where I lived in Venetia, we had 10 and 10, which was 20 feet. So if you had standing water, you had a place for the standing water to sit, per se. Here, there's less place. We flooded. And I'll never hear the end of that, because where I was on the water, I never flooded. I said, I want safety, and I moved west. I checked, okay, you're 32 feet above sea level, that's good. I didn't realize the drainage issues. I appreciate the studies on the drainage, but I think the up and down and the fact that it's not a complete slope, it's not draining properly. And the picture you show was of my street, and that picture was like that in the beginning and the end, but in the middle it was like that, and then it backed up because it couldn't take it. The water was going backwards, and that's when I flooded. So 1 year later, I got back in the house. Fortunately, I had flood insurance, but it took a year to get that. There's a definite problem. Like I said, I'm not an engineer, but something needs to be done. The buildings should be, maybe future buildings should have more distance in between the buildings and larger drainage areas. But we definitely have a drainage problem where we are in South Asciano, and I appreciate your help in any way.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate those comments. So we got the idea. If there's somebody that has something different to add, I'm anxious to hear it. Is there anybody else for public participation?
Yes, my name is John Menzie, and I live at 2814 South Asciano. The one thing that I have never heard discussed in any of these meetings is the health issue. This is contaminated water sitting on our streets for as much as a week. I would wonder if we should be asking the State Department of Health to come in and look at that issue and see whether or not 20 years from now we're going to have increased cancers and so forth. I think that's all I want to say tonight, but I have never heard that issue discussed here before.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate those remarks.
I'll at least be brief. My name is John Hannon, and I live at 2812 East Venetian Lake Circle. So my wife and I, in the back there, Donna Formicella, were not in town on the last, well, the really big rainfall. But our adult son was alone in the home. We have 2 cars, SUV. He was unable to leave the home for 4 days. We were unable to get back to town. My wife is a general surgeon, very talented woman. We were not able to go home, okay? And I kind of get the vibes that there's some doubt that there is an issue here. There really is an issue. I'm a retired Air Force guy, lived all over the world. I spent 4 years living in Brasilia, the federal district of Brazil. I don't know if you know, it rains every day in the summer there. I never saw water like this. And we got people coming up here and talking, seemingly to try to convince you that there's a problem. And I just wanted to come up and tell you there is a problem. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Anyone else for public participation? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. So let us have a dialogue here, if it's your will, before we vote, or we can vote directly. Anybody have something to say? Commissioner McGurk.
Thank you, Mayor. Shane, thank you for the presentation. I want to say to you all, and mostly to those people in the audience who came up and spoke, there's no question there's a problem. Certainly in my mind, there is absolutely no question that there's a problem with something. We are moving aggressively and quickly. And I want to also acknowledge that, yes, you all hired engineers with your own money or HOA money, and that has helped us understand the initial part of this problem. So I want you to clearly understand that I recognize there's a problem out there. That's clear, that's obvious. And it's going to take a little time. You know the old saying, you know, it's government, it moves slowly. There's a lot of checks and balances in government that we have to go through. But I want you to know that when people ask me, what is the biggest problem we have in New Smyrna right now, it's the flooding issue out there at Venetian Bay. That is on the top of my agenda. We hear you, we understand you, and we're going to bring in as many experts as we need until we feel that we have a good understanding of what's going on out there. And then, of course, how do we fix it, and who's going to pay for it? And whether or not there was any, where is accountability? I hear that. I understand that, and I'm with you 100% on everything you guys have said.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Commissioner Hartman.
So we know that the problem is there, but hopefully with what we're doing now and taking a look at this and understanding this, we'll have a better understanding on the entire area over there. So these will be tools, and this will be data that we'll have that we'll also be able to use in future developments and future locations. I think that's important. You know, if what we thought for 20 years was how it's supposed to work, it's not working, then we now know that it's not working, then we need to fix that and we need to change our modeling. So I thank you for the people in Portofino Bay who got this all started. And I thank you, Shane, for you and your staff for all the hard work that you're doing. I think this has kind of opened our eyes in a lot of different ways. And as we move forward, I think we'll have better products. So thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any others? Seeing none. Just to follow up, yes, there's an engineering solution, but there's a planning solution. That's why you get Director Corbin, who owns the whole candy store, and you have the entire commission's commitment to act. If you've just tuned in, we've had several meetings, and you've heard it said up here before, this is not one and done. There are many other aspects to this, not just this one section. But unless we take it a section at a time and remedy this as a network of drainage rather than just one issue, water will move to its lowest point, and then it'll move to the next point and the next point. So we're going to follow along this logical path so we can get it all done, not just one done. So bless you great folks who have come up here and gave us your opinion that maybe we don't think there's a problem. We definitely know that there's a problem, and we definitely know that we have to be part of the solution. So it's top of the list. And I assure you, Director Corbin hears from us regularly about what are you doing, how go faster. But we don't want to skip a step. So we're gonna logically go through this, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it. good Lord willing, we've got the ditches on their way to being cleaned out. We've got, you heard, if you were present at the last meeting, you heard our chief engineer and our director of maintenance operations talk about our coordination and cooperation with the county and the HOAs and the city, who own pieces of all the drainage systems in town, coordinating their efforts to make sure that they're clear. As in the last storms we had, it wouldn't have mattered according to our science. But we got to do all we can do, and Mother Nature owns the rest, right? So we're going to do all that we know how to do, and it may not be before this storm cycle. Doggone it. I wish, we're planning on an active one, but we're moving as fast as we can in a logical fashion. The chair will entertain a motion then to adopt ordinance 3524.
Motion to approve ordinance 3524.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Corbin.
I just wanted to take this opportunity while we've still got some people here. The HOA has a contract with someone to bring in an emergency pump system. If before we get the solution and there is a major storm event, then they'll bring in that pump system and pump those ponds down and get the water out of there. So there is a contingency plan.
Great, thank you. I'm sure that's comforting to many. Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Unanimously, we have adopted ordinance 3524. Thank you very much. On to a first reading and public hearing. And now the city attorney will read ordinance 4224 for the first time by title only, please.
Ordinance number 4224, an ordinance amending the City of New Smyrna Beach's comprehensive plan. Amending Part 2, future land use element to limit future development for the Deering Park Innovation Center, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps, providing for required transmittals, providing for public hearings, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. We're ready for your report, Director Corbin.
Keep my report fairly brief, and then Mr. Storch will come up and he's got a report of his own. We'll take you through the rest of this agenda item. So I think you all are aware of Deering Park Innovation Center at New Smyrna Beach. Just some reminders from the highlights. It's 1,600 acres. Proposing a maximum of 6 million square feet of non-residential structures, approximately 2,100 residential units, and about 400 acres of natural vegetation or conservation areas. Here's the conceptual bubble plan showing in purple, which would be the industrial area, and then as you go away from that, you go into residential as well as mixed-use commercial. There's a proposed mix of townhomes, single-family, true mixed-use development. There are 3 city approvals that need to happen in order for this to go through. The one we're looking at tonight is the text amendment to the comprehensive plan, making mixed-use industrial an eligible future land use category for this site. Right now, that does exist in the comprehensive plan, but it's very specific to another area of the city. So in order to apply it to this area, we need to make it available, and we need to change the text to do that. In addition, there's also some controls being proposed to be inserted into the comp plan to restrict density of non-residential and residential structures. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Of what I have to show you. This did go to planning and zoning, and it was recommended for approval at a vote of 4-2, with recommendation of also adding low-density residential as an allowable use. So now it's in front of you for the first reading. And That's everything I have for my report, and now I think Glenn's going to come up next.
Okay, Attorney Stewart, you'll have 3 minutes. No, you can have longer.
I was just trying to figure if I could do it.
But I will run the clock.
All right. Thank you. Have you used this yet? Just push this. Okay. See, it's nice to have young people around. So, this is something we take very seriously, obviously. This is the second part of the comp plan amendment. The first part, you passed the map amendment. You recommended approval and sent to the state and to all the other agencies for review. So tonight I want to talk about three things. One is the events subsequent to the city commission hearing on the map amendment, because some things have happened that are important. Some things that are important to the that have taken place after the hearing then. And then secondly, I want to follow up on questions that the City Commission asked at that time that you probably didn't have a full answer to. We have that answer for you tonight, and so that's important. Again, we take the City Commission questions seriously. We obviously take the Planning Board questions seriously, and we take the staff questions seriously. And so we've done all those things as we walk through this process. And then third is a review of the proposed text amendment that allows for this in a better location than we presently have. So first of all, the biggest issue that probably has occurred since then is that the Planning Board has, we've worked with them over 2 meetings. They strongly recommended a recommendation on the PUD. But the key issue to that, and this will be what we'll be dealing with at a hearing before you, but I think it's important to talk about a couple of things, because I heard some of the residents of Venetian Bay tonight concerned. And so one of the things is we specifically provide that it prohibits runoff from Innovation Center into Venetian Bay. That may be happening now. It will not happen in the future. We are fortunate to be able to design this because we have 70,000 acres where we can take the design and the stormwater from this site and design it so that it goes south, and so it replenishes our ecosystem and the wetlands and conservation easements we preserve down there. You have to have a place for stormwater to go. Otherwise, it will go in the same locations it's always gone. So in this particular case, obviously we'll maintain most of the stormwater on site, but any runoff will go to the south and to those ecosystems that we have as opposed to the north. That's required under the PUD. Secondly, the stormwater management system is designed it's also, there was also a suggestion that we consider providing a stormwater bond for 10 years to ensure that the system is designed properly and works. We had no problem with that. We placed that into the agreement as well, and so we will provide for that stormwater bond to ensure that the goals that we have for this design are accomplished, or we'll fix them. Secondly, or thirdly, or fourthly, we're going to also agree to report back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to the State Commission. We'll come to make a presentation to you. Once we have that stormwater analysis, once we have everything done, once we have the stormwater permits, to show you how this is going to work, because that's important as well. Stormwater is absolutely key to this area, and we recognize that. Additionally, there was a question as to the fact that we want to make sure that this is really designed to help create non-residential. The design for the non-residential areas, the commercial village area that is so important to west of 95, and the industrial and business park that's so important to the tax base and to job creation for New Smyrna. So one of the things we've added to this, as you know, there was a commitment that no residential will be committed to constructed for at least 3 years from the approval of the PUD. We've added to that a requirement that at least 500,000 square feet of non-residential has to be completed, built, open, prior to any residential, and another 500,000 square feet has to be permitted by the city. So that is a huge commitment on our part, a very costly commitment, but it does show that that what we're interested in is creating that non-residential system in this area. We also added provisions regarding energy and water conservation requirements, Energy Star, higher light reflective values for color standards, landscape plant materials that are Florida-friendly and native vegetation. All of those things reduce the actual irrigation requirements for the area. So it's proper planning if you can do these things and get the landowner to agree to this. We've done that. School review. We have provided a provision that indicates that for every single project or residential plat that comes in, we're required to go and do a new concurrency review to make sure that school capacity is there. If it's not, we'll mitigate for it. We'll provide for it. One of the ways we can provide for it is we've indicated that we have the potential and the ability to construct and operate a new science, technology, engineering, arts, and math-oriented public charter schools, and that we will provide that as a potential option to provide for and ensure that there are sufficient student capacity as well as providing mitigation for new homes. We think that's important because of the fact that we believe that the schools need to be there before, not later. The school system right now has a tendency of, I shouldn't say tendency, they have a policy of you have to have a large amount of overcapacity in other schools in order to build a school. We think we can do this better and faster and create something that we can all be proud of. Fifth, there was a question as to the parkland that we're providing to you. What happens if all that's wetlands? Well, we don't want that obviously either. And so we put a provision in that indicated that the parkland transfer has to be no less than 85% uplands. So that may involve requiring the piece to be bigger than the 50 feet or 50 acres, but that is the requirement, okay? So on top of that, when you send this out, when you send out your map amendment, you send it to the various agencies. One of the agencies that you sent it to was the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. They came back, not only did they recommend approval, but they indicated that the staff has reviewed the proposed future land use map amendment and found the proposal will not adversely impact regional resources and the facilities of significance identified in the SRPP, nor create extra jurisdictional impact on nearby governments and regions. And I love this part because I've never seen this in a staff report before. The applicant is commended for planning and development laid out in a manner to preserve the greatest amount of wetlands possible. I thought that was really impressive because I've been dealing with this agency for a long time. That's the first time I've ever seen a compliment like that. There was also a concern that planning will result in toilet to tap water processing. So we checked with the Utilities Commission. This is apparently a rumor that is oftentimes brought up, but the bottom line is, and this is per the Utilities Commission, this is a quote, the use of reclaimed water to produce potable water, also known as toilet to tap, is not a part of any NSBU water resource plans that have been reviewed and approved by St. John's Water Management District, nor any projects that are in our 10-year capital improvement plan approved by NSBU Commission. The long-term water resources plans were provided to the Joint City and NSBU Commissions. This will be posted, available on the UC website, and made available for reference by the general public. Obviously, this is very good news. I know that was a concern, but that's very good news. That will not be the case. They've made it clear there are no water capacity issues for Deering Park Innovation Center, which again was important to me. There was also, this was an interesting question. There was also a question regarding who are you? Who are these people? Who are these people that we're working with? Who are these people that we're partnering with? Can you tell us about this? So I brought two people up, Ernie Cox and Josh Long, and I want them to talk a little bit about the family that owns the 70,000 acres and also Coulter, who was the partner in this. So, Ernie?
Hello, everyone. Ernie Cox, Family Lands Remembered, and
Good to be with you again tonight. So it's my company was founded about 18 years ago to work on large conservation and sustainable development projects, and trying to protect as much of Florida as we can, Florida Wildlife Corridor and those things. And the opportunity to work with families, particularly families that have owned property for many years, it's a great honor for me. This family, I think, is special because they've owned most of this land for almost 100 years. And they've purchased this property relatively recently, but from another long-term Volusia County, New Smyrna Beach family. And that's very important. They've also given us the ability, with strings and commitment, to use the family name. And so the Deering family, you may know from Florida history, Charles Deering and William Deering had developed some property in Miami, but more importantly, they were the founders of a company that was originally called the Deering Harvester Company, that then merged with the McCormick Company to become International Harvester. And then the descendants of that family are the owners of this property. And so to me, that's part of a piece of history for the United States, certainly history for agriculture, and also history of Florida. And so part of our role as the team trying to implement the vision is to make sure we do a good job with it, and hopefully we can. They've worked for years to develop. We gave a presentation earlier this week, and we'll continue to talk with folks about it, but the original Farmington local plan and the conservation so far of 45,000 acres of land that's part of the Florida Wildlife Corridor. And so the picture that you see up on the screen, the brighter green, those are existing publicly owned conservation lands that already exist, that connect up a corridor that goes all the way through the state of Florida. And just this week, the governor and cabinet approved 4 more purchases throughout the state of ranch and timberlands. So we're continuing to try to fill in some of those gaps that aren't yet green. But the green that you see in the middle, those are the lands that have been placed in conservation so far. And then we've got another piece that sometime later this summer, in the city of Edgewater, another 3,732 acres will go into conservation, along with what will be known as the Edgewater Wetland Park and a 7-mile segment of the Florida Sun Trail Network. And then finally, just how we ended up with going forward with development. Our folks are not a development company, but because of the history in the area and the importance of the project, particularly putting the Deering name on it, our charge was to find a partner that we would partner with. And so we have created a development company called the Deering Park Development Company, not particularly unique, but Deering Park Development Company, that is actually a 50-50 joint venture between the family and Coulter Land. And so we spent a lot of time talking with development companies. What we like about Coulter, and I'll let Josh talk a little bit about the company, is one, they're privately owned, so they don't have quarterly stock returns that they need to meet, and we know that what that means. Second, they share a long-time vision in the state of Florida, developing all types of property. My belief, they're just good people, and we sit down and we work well together. And so they've been involved in us with the planning, and they'll be involved in the execution. So again, anytime you have questions, or if anybody would like to get out and see any of the property, I'm much more comfortable in jeans, riding around on a buggy than I am wearing a suit jacket. But just thought I'd tell you a little bit about the family, and then Josh, where's Josh? Let Josh tell you about Coulter.
Good evening. For the record, Josh Lawn, I'm the Vice President for Planning and Entitlement for Coulter Land. I do have another slide, if I could get there. There we go, perfect. As Ernie explained, I work for Culture Land, and it's one of 5 companies for Culture Group. Culture Group is a very diverse experience company, mostly divested in Florida. If you can see the little pictures there, I wanted to talk for 30 minutes, but Glenn gave me 2. So I'll go very quickly just to give you a summary of what Culture Group does. As you can see from the picture of the hotel there, we have a company called Culture Hospitality, who owns and operates 15 different hotels across Florida. We have 2 more coming online in the next 2 years. There'll be 17 hotels. We also do Culture Urban. And currently, Culture Urban has 11 high-rise condominiums up for construction in the urban areas, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, and then 2 up in Atlanta. I work for Culture Land. So that third picture, which is the hardest one to see, but I think it's the most important to show you, that's actually a brand new industrial development that I've been working on in Martin County called South Florida Gateway. Just a year ago, we got 2 million square feet approved from Martin County Commission. What you see there are 4 of 5 buildings that are going to be complete this year for 1.6 million square feet of industrial. From site plan approval just a year ago to actual buildings done, 1.6 million square feet in just a year. But Culture Land, our part of the company, we have 52 different projects currently going in 5 different states. We are experienced with mixed use, commercial, retail, industrial, all kinds of different aspects from large, several thousand unit developments to a couple hundred unit developments. And then if you keep going on the other side of that industrial picture, we have Culture Multifamily. They deal with apartments and also the attainable housing aspect, which is a very important component for development. And then the bottom picture there is Culture Homes, traditional single-family developer. And we have 24 communities currently under construction at various stages of construction and sales right now across Florida. And we also have the Crestwind brand, which is our active adult community. So I do have the other slides here. So this is Alton. This is a really good example. This is a large mixed-use community in Palm Beach Gardens. What you see there is the retail center. And Abacoa, which is in Jupiter, is in the upper part of the slide. This is a great example where we came in, did a retail center. We also have single family. We have multifamily. We have a corporate headquarters there. Carrier is located at the headquarters there. A new hospital is being constructed. We have new schools that were built. So everything, all kit and caboodle, all put together in a brand new community there. If you have time, you should go to alton.com. And check out the facilities and all the pictures. It's really beautiful. And here's just a picture of one of the warehouses that I talked about for South Florida Gateway. As you can see, it's brand new, hasn't even been moved in. We expect moving in a couple months, actually. That's just one of the 5 warehouses that were just built this year. And here's a nice, pretty picture of people enjoying Alton, having a dinner at one of our many restaurants. So with that, I'll conclude. Go.
Mr. Storch, in your remaining 2 minutes, anything more, sir?
I think I'm almost there. So
you will be.
Yes, exactly. So the last thing is the text amendment itself, and that is fairly simple. I mean, this is the text amendment basically adds Deering Park Center or Innovation Center as an eligible area. Right now, your only eligible areas are those areas that are showing here in green next to the railroad track. And those are the only areas you have for job creation. It makes no sense. There's no opportunity for job creation, but this text amendment also restricts density and intensity permitted on the site, which again is something we talked about during the map amendment. You've got to restrict that density and intensity, and it gives everybody a chance to then analyze everything correctly. We have no objection, if you want to add additional restrictions to the comprehensive plan as we're going along. We can talk about the phasing of non-residential uses or the school capacity. We can talk about any of those things. We may come back once we get our comments back from the state and add those. So we'll talk about those as we go along. But the bottom line is, for today, it's a fairly simple text amendment that complies with what we talked about for the map amendment.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Any questions for Director Corbin or Attorney Storch from the dais. Vice Mayor.
Hold on, I have three. So could you elaborate a little bit on the bond, the stop and start dates on that? And tell us, ensure that of that 10 years, how that's going to work?
Yes, again, that was what was requested, so that was the amount was requested. I think it's probably more than enough. But the bottom line is, when we do first of all, no one's done a stormwater bond before, so this is a new concept. But the concept would be, look, we're building this as we build it, and so it would start probably upon the construction. After construction, the 10-year would start at when it was completed and CO'd. But when you're building this, does it work? Does it accomplish the goals that are provided for in the BPUD? No stormwater going to Venetian Bay, stormwater going toward the south, no stormwater going, the amount of stormwater that we're talking about being collected on the site, those things. If it works, great, not a problem. But the important thing is it will require the stormwater system to be analyzed probably on an annual basis to ensure that. And if it's not working, then the stormwater bond will provide for the alterations necessary to make sure it works.
And I'm assuming the amount of money in that bond is going to be negotiated with the attorneys between
Typically,
the
what will
two?
happen is the engineers will determine the amount of the cost of the review, the alteration, et cetera. And so at that point, the city and the applicant's engineer will get together and make that determination as to the amount. Once that's done, then we'll either place a bond or we'll place a letter of credit. Most of this time, because of the size of the company, we've been able to do letters of credit. We simply put the money into the bank with the ability to draw it if you don't use it.
Do you have an existing bond? You said this is fairly new, that you're doing this for stormwater anywhere else that we can look into?
No.
And have a sample?
I have never seen this before. It was raised during the planning board hearing. And again, if it's something that, if it's something that can help us make people feel better about what we're doing, we have no problem. Go ahead, Ernie.
Hi, Ernie, I may be able to help there. It would be very similar to a construction bond at the conclusion of construction. So we're not looking to create an entirely new instrument. But if you think about a construction bond that comes in, be based upon a percentage of the construction cost, based upon the engineer's recommendation as security. And so we do expect it'll be a bond instead of a letter of credit. But very similar to other construction bonds. And if everything works, then you don't need it. If there's a problem, then the first opportunity is to fix it. And then if it's not fixed, the bond is there for security just in case. So very similar to a regular construction bond.
Thank you. I like that. Thank you.
And I should point out also, there are other provisions in the stormwater management section of the BPUD that you'll see that talk about these things and how we're going to accomplish these goals.
My second question is very important to me. It's about the schools. I've been following Venetian Bay since 2009, and I thought originally there was going to be a school in Venetian Bay as well. So the stop and start dates, if we're putting a 3-year moratorium on the residential, it's important that we do the school analysis after or with the anticipation of the residential. So can you elaborate a little bit more? Because I don't want the school report done before we know about the residential and have that down to a finite answer.
So the first thing is when we're doing our concurrency analysis for but it's for any time there is a residential plat or a site plan review for multifamily. So every time you go in, you'll do it. So to make the determination. But at the same time, we're looking at trying to resolve that capacity issue in advance. Because to be honest with you, the school board doesn't have a great record as far as taking the land that has been provided to them and building schools on it. In fact, they had one piece down near us, near this area on 442. They had a great location for a school. They sold it, and there was a D.R. Horton project built on it instead. That's not going to happen in this project. We're going to have a way of making sure that we have the highest quality schools in place that will be either working with the school board or doing specific charter schools, like I say, the STEAM schools that have something special, because that's part of what Deering Park Innovation Center will be.
My last question is towards Ernie and Mr. Cox and Mr. Long. I would like the opportunity to go out with you and view that. And I also, with Mr. Long, I would like the opportunity to know where your industrial businesses are now so that I can research those and look at those buildings and maybe hear from those cities. So if for somehow we can get your information, that would be great. Or if you could get our information and reach out to us, I definitely appreciate that opportunity and that suggestion, and I will take you up on it.
We'll take care of both.
Thank you.
And if you ever, the site, Robbie and I'll give the tour. Love doing that.
Would love that. Thank
For
you.
anyone one-on-one. And then the project is in Martin County, which is Stewart area. But we'll get that information, and Josh will be able to provide folks at the county that they worked with.
And obviously, if you'd like to see some of the other Coulter projects, such as the mixed-use project that we were referring to, that's down in that area as well. That's West Palm Beach Gardens, is that where it is? Palm Beach Gardens, right. So we can provide that address as well.
Thank you for these updates.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions? Commissioner Martin?
You did touch on energy use or NSB utilities. But what I'm noticing is that in April of 2024, just 2 months ago, 78% of our available electrical capacity was in use. So we were at 78% of capacity last April. And this is switching to a substantially more intensive project. In addition, you touched on the toilet to tap, but our water treatment capacity in April was at 57.8, and the wastewater at over 63%. This is really high numbers to go into a high-intensity project like this. And we know that commercial, light industrial, those are really energy intensive. So I must admit, I continue to have concerns about our ability to provide the infrastructure for electric and water and sewer for this project without putting an undue burden on the people who already are here.
Yeah. What you know, unfortunately, you're not seeing the whole BPUD. So let's start with a couple things. One, the Utilities Commission is the one to determine whether or not this is sufficient, if there's capacity for water, sewer, and electricity. For electricity, they have asked us to provide them an 8-acre site for an electric power substation, and we have agreed to do that. So,
and the site is great, but remember, we still have to pay for it.
But based on that, they have determined that they can then certainly supply and have sufficient capacity for this. So that's one.
Yes.
As far as the water, all I can tell you is what they told me. I mean, I quoted them. They have sufficient water capacity for this site and will continue to have. One of the advantages we have with the 70,000 acres is that we've been working with cities and with other governments to help supply water sites, well sites, if necessary, as we go through the process. It is one of the advantages of being a partnership with someone like my client. So we're not having any issues whatsoever with water capacity. They did indicate that, at some point at build out, there may be an issue as far as making sure that we have sufficient capacity for sewer. They'll build for that. This is a 30-year project. They will be able to build for that.
And I know there are impact fees, but nevertheless, preparing for this could impact I'm just looking at the numbers they supplied for April. And as we know, it's been a lot hotter since April. So I have concerns about that. And in addition, I'm also concerned about paving over, areas that contribute to replenishing our aquifer. And we all know that that is the preferred source of drinking water.
Well, you have no wells on this site, of course, that's one thing. But secondly, by doing it the way we're doing it, by doing it working together with staff and everyone else, that we're saving 50% of this site as open space, 50%. So that's huge. The rest of the areas and other areas, we've saved even more land as part of our planning process. This is a great partner to have in working together on this site. You don't have that kind of savings or open space with typical projects coming in. And so this is why I'm so proud of what we've been able to do, proud of what the staff has been able to do, proud of what the planning board's been able to do. So we'll continue to work together, but all I can tell you is...
I understand that. It's just a big jump from conservation, forest reserve, and agriculture to light industrial. That's a big jump for a lot of land.
And you have to understand, that's not what your comp plan actually says. Your comp plan has the same designations that the county had, but your comp plan also has this as the neighborhood South Village concept, which is for urban use. It says high-density urban uses and all the things we're talking about. So you've already partially planned this for what we're doing. We are emphasizing more job creation than what South Village does.
Any other questions, ma'am? Any other questions?
No, I'm
okay,
fine.
good enough. Commissioner Hartman?
No.
Commissioner McGurk?
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate those remarks. Do you have any summary, Shane, or anything else you need to add?
No, I don't believe I have anything else.
Okay. Thank you so very much. The public hearing is now open. If there are any citizens who wish to speak on this particular topic, you'll have 3 minutes, same as before. This is your monologue, not a dialogue between us, and appreciate your name and your address for the record. And the lights will remain the same. 3 minutes, please, Mr. Dalton.
I said I'd be back. Frank Prevost, 2916 North Arciano Court in Venetian Bay, New Smyrna Beach. And just a couple of comments, and it seems incredulous to me that you can add 6 million square feet of commercial industrial space, 2,100 homes, and not have a significant impact on infrastructure, electricity, water, traffic, and schools, okay? And that's what these guys are telling you. It's like, oh yeah, everything's gonna be sweet and fine, okay? It's like, what could go wrong? Okay, well, maybe a lot of things could go wrong because look what happened at Venetian Bay. And the only reason I'm here now is to encourage you to go slow so that we don't have in 10 years from now, or 5 or 20, another situation like we have at Venetian Bay, where all the people that did the development, the builders and the developers, they're gone, and then they leave the residents with all the troubles to try to deal with. So, ask you to go slow, and I think, in particular, having surety bonds is really an excellent way to go, okay? Make the developers put their money where their mouth is. Okay, and it's not just, and I heard someone say that, oh yeah, we have a bond for stormwater. No, I think you need a bond for the entire development. And make sure that it's significant, and make sure that it's enough to make certain that if there are problems, they can be fixed, and people that are impacted can be compensated properly. So my message is, please, okay, pay attention, go slow. The residents of New Smyrna Beach are counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate those remarks. Evening.
Hi, I'm Janet Hall, 106 Portofino Boulevard. You've already heard my skeptical concerns about the environmental impact, so I won't repeat that. But for all the pretty pictures and nice words that we heard today regarding this development, at the end of the day, this is still a development for financial gain. It's going to pave over a large amount of existing agricultural land. And so the question for us is, what are the new residents of New Smyrna Beach and the city really going to get out of this development? As somebody who works for a California-based tech company, I want to just add a note of caution about whether this is going to really pan out as an innovation center, as we hope. You know, if there's anything positive to extract from the pandemic, it's that work, how people do their work has changed significantly. The platforms for working remotely have improved exponentially, and many companies, particularly tech companies, have embraced working from home and flexible work arrangements. So I would just question, times have really changed since this was first conceived, and that whether it will really pan out as intended. You know, if we're talking about manufacturing, warehouse jobs, I don't know whether, you know, people are thinking of an Amazon warehouse or a manufacturing center, but these are not high-paying jobs. And increasingly over time, they're becoming automated as well. So I just want to add that note of caution, because otherwise this innovation center is really just the Trojan horse that is paving the way for another large residential development on what is, you know, very beautiful agricultural and forest land. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your remarks. Anyone else for public participation?
Mayor, I have a previous engagement that I have to attend to, so I'm going to excuse myself.
Without objection. Yes, sir.
Yes, Bob Gattinella, 2815 South Oceano Court. I just want to comment, I think Lisa Martin had a very important issue. When you start to think with this development and the size and the addition to New Smyrna Beach, does the water treatment plant have the ability to handle the water and sewer? Does the electrical capacity, when you operate generators at 75, 80%, you know, that's about the max for a generator. Now, I'm not a utility person, but I work with generators in aircraft, and there's a limit to how much a generator can produce power for how long without overheating, and then you had a failure. So for the benefit of the city of New Smyrna Beach and the community, I think that the electrical capacity and the water treatment should be an issue that you should look into. And on this project and any other project, a bond to protect the residents of the city should be included. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate those remarks.
Hi, Joe Dluback again, 3587 Casalta Circle. I have a question about whether the city is really prepared for doing the Deering Park Innovation Center. You guys have noticed that even doing one, this project called Venetian Bay was challenging. We've got tons of lessons learned that we need to pass on to you ultimately. But now we're asking you to do the Deering Park, to do Shell Point, to do South Village. All three of them are on the table right now. And the question is whether the city is prepared and capable to do all that. If you don't, you're allowing the developer to be self-monitoring. And you can ask the FAA and Boeing how that's working out for them. It doesn't. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate those remarks. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Bob Williams, 767 Pine Shore Circle, and also speaking on behalf of the board of the Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce. I will share with you that although my ancestors moved to Florida over 100 years ago, we only moved here just 50 years ago to New Smyrna Beach. 1,000 people a day are moving to Florida. We're not going to stop that. This town is going to grow. And the only way we can either be smart about it or we can let it roll over us. This project is key to the new town growth of New Smyrna Beach. It takes a master plan approach, which is shown to be cognizant and take care of the environmental concerns. They've addressed stormwater resilience and economic sustainability. They've incorporated best practices from around the state and around the country. And they've addressed lessons learned from local issues we've had. The landowners and their representatives have worked hard and diligently with the city and the citizens. They've come up with a plan that is key to high-paying, clean, high-tech jobs in our community so that our children don't have to move away and our other family members can come live in our area. It's key to diversifying our tax base and our economy. I would tell you, they've worked with the Utilities Commission on planning, and in other local utility companies have certain restrictions. If we were being served by FPL or Duke, they would actually be in trying to promote this project because these kinds of industrial centers actually pay for the infrastructure growth and reduce the burdens on the residents. They love these kinds of projects. I'll close by saying, on behalf of the Chamber, hundreds of businesses, thousands of families that depend on jobs in those businesses, many of whom are residents, we strongly recommend approval of this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Any other comments from the public? Any other public participation? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. We'll open deliberations here. There, any of my colleagues would like to speak on the topic? Vice Mayor.
Yes, I just want to make a couple comments after I've heard some of this. First of all, not all of this land is currently in conservation, and the city has been proactive reaching out so that we can help navigate what happens with this land. So to tell a property owner that has rights that they can't do anything with the property isn't an option. So we can go forward and work with this property owner, or we can just turn our backs and let them do what they want. And that's not a good plan. We are not doing this because the developer to gain financial gain, as stated. We are being proactive, doing what we need to balance our budget and to see better opportunities and jobs here. We are doing our due diligence now. The people on this board was not here when Venetian Bay was done years ago. I've been following that development for years. So just keep in mind, these owners have rights. And what we're doing is for the betterment of the community. I have personally reached out to our City Utilities Commission CEO multiple times over the past year, questioning the infrastructure, and they assure me, different people over and over, that this will work, and we have plenty of resources to do this. We have that on record in our past meetings. So to say that we don't, that's what we're told up here. So we have to listen to the city utilities. I don't believe that they would say we would not have a problem if we did really have a problem. So I just want you to remember that the city has taken stands before on property owner rights issues and have lost. We don't want that. That's taxpayer money. So please consider job opportunities. We're too early in this to know what kind of jobs will be coming there, but we are looking at high-tech jobs that will also increase the medium wage. So it's hard for me to listen to this when I've been on Economic Development Board for 4 years and know this is what the community needs. We need to work with this group and follow this and make sure it's done properly. And I appreciate everybody being here, and the input that we've gotten is why we have the bond and the school things that were thrown in there this week. That wasn't in there. So your voices do matter, and we do listen, and continue, please, to bring us things that we might not think of. But I think everybody has this fear of the unknown, and that's understandable, especially after what you've gone through Venetian Bay. It's very scary to hear this, but we all need to work together on this and make sure these developers are accountable and do what they're telling us. And I appreciate all of that before we vote, but I just wanted to say that because I was on economic development for 4 years to get better jobs here. If we don't do this or consider this, then it's going to be really difficult to balance our budget.
Anyone else? Commissioner Martin.
I'm just also concerned, aside from the metrics, I'm just saying what metrics they actually gave to us in April, not any promises and theories here. The other thing that does concern me is the office vacancy rate around the country is about 20%. So I also have a concern of these things being built and sitting empty. There's really pretty high vacancy rate. So I'm concerned about both of those items.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Mr. McGurk.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I want to recognize the people's concerns. They're valid. You certainly are gun shy for a very good reason. The questions brought up tonight by you guys, absolutely valid. We're going to move slow on this. I'm going to move slow on it. I want this to be done right. This is too big not to be done right. This Venetian Bay, that development agreement and all the planning for that was probably about 22 years ago. Nobody in this room representing the city was anywhere close to any of that. The old phrase, if you don't understand history, you're bound to repeat it. We understand the history. We get it. We're seeing the problems we can see what even the most minor problems or mistakes that can be created in stormwater drainage can do to a community, a neighborhood, and individual homes. So you have my attention, and you have my commitment that we're going to move slow on this. We're going to make sure it's done right. With respect to Utilities Commission, we don't tell them what to do. They're an independent agency who get to make their own decisions, and we trust them. They would not tell us that we have capacity if they did not have the capacity. If they have a concern about a development, they will certainly let us know. Nothing about the history of the Utilities Commission is let's go out there and get it, unfettered growth and development. The entire city has never really been like that. So we're not going to start now, and we're going to go ahead deliberately, slowly, with the history in mind. Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. Thank you so much, my colleagues here. This is such a righteous time for us to have this debate. We have a tremendous amount of pressure on this city to keep its cultural values, to keep its coastal feel, And at the same time, the pressures from New Smyrna as a amenity to Central Florida, amenity to our state, are upon us. And so we take that, we on this dais take that tremendously seriously. And so the lessons of the past are in focus. The opportunity to shape what Newtown, New Smyrna is going to look like is before us. Old Town's full, Midtown's 80% full, and the y'all come sign is out, whether we want it to be or not. And so we can either determine what that looks like, or we can allow sprawl. And so we've got a willing partner, and you've heard the accolades of this particular partner who had the opportunity to walk away a couple times and decided, nope, I think I'll get a fair shake from these guys. So I'm encouraged by that. Citizens, especially the Venetian Bay citizenry, I can't imagine how you must feel about going and watching the same thing happen over again. Let me assure you, the same thing's not going to happen over again. And my heart goes out to you because we're not moving as fast as we need to for this year's storm activity, and that you probably have been coming over and over long before I ever got the opportunity to sit here to say, something's not right, something's not right. We get that. But for the opportunity to get it right, have a green space, a blank palette, if you will, and to get it right for New Smyrna is too valuable an opportunity to pass by in my look. You'll hear Commissioner Perrine and others talk about the balance between the ad valorem tax rate that residents feel versus what the businesses are feeling in our town. The ratio is not sustainable in the long run. Eventually, we will price ourselves out of the market for anybody being able to afford to come live here. We must act to do something to get the businesses we want to attract. Not any business, not every business, but the businesses we want to attract that appeal to our sense of environment, our sense of technology, and our sense of community are important. And we're on it. We are watching as we go. This is some person's property out there. And they're going to have rights to do things they want as long as it doesn't violate the LDRs. They've stepped over and offered the hand to say, we want to do it like you want it done. And are they going to make a ton of money? Absolutely. And are we going to make sure it meets the city's needs? Infrastructure, you're absolutely right. Our infrastructure today cannot sustain that, but we have to build that in, and we're planning to build that in as we go. And I'm not talking about power and water. There's a ton of other things that are infrastructure related that we're going to depend on our city staff and the talent we've got to make sure we make accounting for that as we go. Before the first shovel gets thrown, we're going to do that. I implore you to help us along the way. Do not be silent. This game is not over, and we want to move together. And so when you go home, please tell your friends and other businesses, please come in and continue to voice your concerns. We truly appreciate them. We will use the math, logic, and science to move forward. Many of us have tightly held opinions. Some of them will hold up, others of them will fall away. But if we use science-based thinking, we will get there logically. That's my opinion, and thank you for listening to me go on. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 4224. This is the first reading. We'll have a second reading at a later date, so there'll be another opportunity to do this again. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to adopt 4224. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin?
I'm not ready yet. No.
Vice
Record
Mayor-
show that was a no vote.
Yes. Vice Mayor Perine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes, thank you very much. We have a majority. We will move slowly, but we will get there. 4224 has been adopted. The next reading, Madam City Attorney.
It gets sent to the state now, and once the state reviews it and it comes back, we'll have an opportunity to review any state comments. So it's to be determined based on when we get it back from the state.
Perfect. Is there other business before we go to our reports? I think we have an update for the commission on the contract negotiations that we've gone through today. And if you don't mind, Madam City Attorney, just give us a brief summary. I'm aware of it, and we've had some back and forth, and it's gone exceedingly well. There are very few points to consider, and I'd like you to just give everybody the same update that I have.
Okay, we're pretty close. The only pushback we got on was regarding retirement. Instead of 8%, increasing it to 13%. The car allowance from 600 to 750. The first 2 months before the October 1 bank gets deposited, instead of 33 hours of personal leave, a request for 80. And then the only other thing that kind of still has a question mark is on the reimbursement for housing costs. He was going to kind of get some quotes and estimates to figure out what's a ballpark number for what it would cost him. Mayor Cleveland has suggested, in order to get this buttoned up, maybe we increase that to $20,000. Not sure if that will get it done, but we can convey that. I did have one question, though, following up from Tuesday night. There was a little confusion among staff in terms of the termination clause. So there's with cause, and then there's without cause, and then there's without cause within 90 days of an election, before and after an election. There's some sentiment to make them all supermajority. I just wanted to check and see what that direction specifically was. If it was to make supermajority for all of them, we can just drop the 90-day provision because it doesn't make a difference.
So if, so if you do supermajority, it doesn't really matter whether it's for cause or not for cause. That extra paragraph in the 90 days is irrelevant.
Correct.
And I'm assuming we want to stick with the supermajority. Yeah. Any objection to that? Is there an upside or downside to that?
No, just a preference. Want to make sure it's drafted the way the commission intended.
And that's a 4-to-1 vote, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I would say on the supermajority only that there's a level of comfort to the applicant or to the city manager that it has to be really thought through before termination.
And so we don't have to have a supermajority. That just has to do with cause and no cause.
Well, what I just heard was whether it's with cause or without cause, the vote should be by supermajority.
So the margin of with cause seems to be, should, in my humble opinion, should have a lower threshold than without cause.
Correct.
I don't really care, but it would make sense that for cause isn't just because one of us decide we don't like him. It's a statute. It's a clear violation. They're spelled out in there.
The way it was originally set up was with cause, majority, without cause, supermajority, and if it's within 90 days before or after an election, unanimous. That was the original.
Do we require unanimous? I mean, supermajority, I would think would suffice.
It's a provision that was in Khaled's contract. It's a way to insulate politics from.
Well, I'm not discussing the 90 days before or after the election. I'm discussing the need for unanimous, because I think we do need to be able to remove somebody, and unanimous might be a really high bar. I think
so then we could just lose
a high bar.
We could just lose the 90-day provision then.
So I think we're all close on this. I think For cause, majority, simple majority. For without cause, supermajority.
Can I see some head nods?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I would
Wait
be.
a second, are you saying cause is majority, but?
Lower bar.
So for cause, 3 votes.
But I-
No
I guess
cause,
I
4
thought
votes.
cause was such an absolute that it shouldn't even be required to have.
You got to vote though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, what I mean is that it shouldn't require less of a bar if it's that clear. So maybe I'm
True,
wrong
that can cut
about
both
what
ways.
cause-
I also heard that from Commissioner Hartman.
that-
Even supermajority, unanimous is just, that's a crazy high bar. That's not, even supermajority is something that I would question. I mean, a lot of thought on that. That is even very difficult a lot of times. But for, I don't, there's cause, as long as so under any circumstances, we need a supermajority to let them go, whether it's cause or no cause.
That is one proposal.
One proposal is with cause, then it's simply a 3-2, a majority vote.
Correct. So the direction staff took from the last meeting was that with or without cause, supermajority.
Yeah, see, what I would think is that with cause, it should be a really easy way to get supermajority. I mean,
With cause is going to be, in my opinion, there's going to be there's going to be some subjectivity in that.
you mean.
How you
determining
interpret
what
it with cause,
is?
yes. The nature of it is there be some, so I mean, I don't,
The termination clause does have very specific set forth reasons defining what cause is.
So is there clarity on the definition of cause or what?
Correct.
Yeah, so if cause is, you've committed a homicide in City Hall,
Then why would you need a supermajority? It should be very easy to say cause. That's where I was. I don't care either way, but you need a lower bar to do something that's clear. Something that's fuzzy, you need to have everybody sure, and that's why the supermajority.
yeah, and I guess I just looked at the ease of getting that higher bar for cause, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's all. So it's not that I feel strongly, it's just that it seemed like.
Jared's like, okay, so where are you guys at?
So, let's
I'm
give
not
her some,
gonna fight hard.
let's give,
With cause of 3-2, I like that.
And then just
Commissioner
supermajority, get rid of the 90-day.
yes.
Okay. Everyone agrees. Okay. That is all.
Any other reports, acting city manager?
I'd just like to say, I know we keep hearing about the ditch. I don't know how to control that narrative, but we did offer to have a meeting, and we had a meeting for residents of Venetian Bay to go through all of this. I would just say that as you all have conversations, let people know that our office is open. And if they want to come sit down and meet with me and the city engineering staff, we can go through all of this information with them on a one-on-one basis. So I hate for people to feel like they're coming up and they're saying the same things over and over, and I don't want to make comments that make it seem like I'm not listening to them, but based on what we're seeing and what all of the engineers are agreeing on, that ditch and Shell Point are non-factors in what we're trying to fix.
So Shane, one idea, take it to them. Take it to a town hall out there. Like, make it easy, do more than one. Don't make them come to your office. Take your science out to them. And then it's blatant if they decide that they don't want to listen. I think they'll turn out. They'll have a bunch of other issues. You open yourself up to a ton of other issues, but it's righteous to go out there and explain why you think this part of the solution set works. That's just a suggestion.
I agree with the mayor on that. And let me make clear in my own head, we have what's called the Samsula Canal. Is that what they're talking about on the west side of Airport Road? Or is there another ditch on west side of Airport Road?
It's the ditch that they're talking about runs adjacent to Airport Road from 44 north. and comes up and curves around and then eventually dumps into the Samsula Canal.
Okay, so I want to clarify that, though. Samsula Canal runs on the western property of Venetian Bay, but they're talking about Airport Road ditch that then goes into Samsula Canal.
Yes, that's
And
what
then
I
there's,
believe
I
I'm
think,
hearing.
I think there's another horizontal, depending on how you look at it, that runs east and west ditch in the middle of Venetian Bay, closer to Shell Point, that they're upset that is being dumped, but they refer to it as, I think, their ditch, but that is not their ditch. That is a natural flow ditch that not only that Venetian Bay uses as part of their water, but also Shell Point will use too.
That's correct. And if we look at the actual drainage plans for Shell Point, what you'll see is that the way that it is designed, it actually holds more water before it discharges than before development. And the reason is they've built these really deep ponds, and that's the way it's been engineered and designed. So it's not even 1 for 1. It's like they're holding 1.5 gallons for every gallon that used to get discharged.
Right.
So,
I just wanted to make sure that we had all the
Sure.
canals because people refer to them in different ways. So, thank you.
Sure, and happy to sit down with you all at any time too, if you, want to understand
We want to go
exactly
on
what's
We
designed.
want to go on a field trip for sure. Madam City Clerk, anything from you, ma'am?
Just that letter, sir. That letter for the housing.
Oh, gosh, yeah, sorry, thank you. I've got a letter from the Housing Authority that she would like me to pass along. And so without your objections, this is about approval for tearing down and demolishing the 40 units that were trashed by the storm. And it's allowed under Section 18 of the Housing Act of 1937. I was just going to send this letter to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development endorsing their request to tear that down so that they can rebuild.
I will only say that I have had a constituent come to me saying, those are brick houses. Those are brick buildings, and so yes, there might be mold, et cetera, but it is a lot easier to refurbish or restore those brick buildings than it is to tear down and build new ones. So that's a pass along from one of my constituents, and I thought it was a good point.
Gotcha. Without objection, I'm going to send this letter.
I mean, is that what they're planning?
That's what they plan to tear it down.
Our housing authority.
Our housing authority plans to tear it down and build the plan that we have seen of the new phase 2, which we have seen and approved.
Okay, that was the caveat. That's the linchpin. We're not just deciding arbitrarily to take these down. These were part of phase 2 of
Correct.
our. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, not endorsing the plan we've approved, but not allowing them to tear it down seems incongruous to me. I appreciate the fact of what's easier and what's more conservative from a mold conservation perspective, but I don't think it goes into. I don't think they plan to reuse those homes. They may reuse the bricks, but I think their whole new plan that we've approved.
Yeah, no, they're planning to tear it all down and rebuild, but again, it's come to me saying, why? Did
Gotcha.
you think this through?
Yeah, we did when we approved that last plan, I think.
Yeah, it's a
We had-
much bigger density project. We're tearing down X amount of
No,
units.
Again, I understand, I'm sharing what I thought was an excellent point.
Great. Okay, without objection. And the last point I want to make is we've had a power failure on the beachside south. We have connectivity with the Utility Commission, and they are saying that original estimates, it was heat-related failure, and original estimates were that they would have power back tomorrow. I've received, let's see. Thank you for your patience. You already know we've experienced a heat-related failure that impacts your electric service. They're diligently working on it. Estimated time of restoration with temporary repairs was Friday at 7 a.m. The update I have says tonight, I believe. So they are working. The Utility Commission is on it right now. I've seen the trucks over the South Causeway, which is where the failure has occurred. Just an update.
How many homes are affected roughly?
I don't know the volume of
You
that.
can easily go to NSBU, yeah, look at the outages on NSBU. I haven't heard too many screams yet.
Tonight is a lot better than Friday.
Yeah. Come back tonight versus then. Okay, Madam City Attorney, sorry. Anything from you?
Oh,
Any
no,
more?
I covered what I needed to cover.
Okay, very good. Thank you, we're adjourned.